Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And on Monday's video, I went over what are, to me, at this moment, the 5 most annoying ships in a game. And as with many of the top 5 videos, as I do ask in the videos, you guys share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. And when I was reading through those comments today, I noticed a common trend. Many of you guys are saying, well, how could you leave out this ship or this class or that class? And some of them completely understandable, right? Obviously, like submarines right now, many of you guys said the whole class, very understandable. I agree with you there. That is a very frustrating class to play against. But as I was reading through some of the other comments, I was noticing there are ships being mentioned that I was like, well, yeah, I can see how if you're getting harassed by that ship constantly, that's a little annoying, but really shouldn't be, among the most annoying ships in the game to play against. And I'll use a very common ship in terms of being mentioned in Monday's video as an example. And that was the Jaeger. Now, Jaeger, of course, is a most unique ship, as you would be forgiven for looking at it and thinking it's like a tier 4 or a tier 5 just by, well, looking at it visually and looking at some of its stats, because visually it is, it is a, pre-World War I era destroyer, and it's got, single-mounted deck guns, and yeah, it just looks like it's straight out of, well, the early 20th century, because, well, it is. But of course, Wargaming did its thing and juiced it up, and it's a tier 9 with, these crazy 90+ knot torpedoes depending upon your commander build, with a crazy fast reload time as well. So obviously, if you are in, some battleship, as of course many of you are, because I'm a Battleship main, who would have thought the Battleship main channel would attract a bunch of Battleship mains, right? And you're, constantly eating Jaeger torpedoes. I can definitely see how that's annoying. But when you look at the rest of the Jaeger, it's not really a well-rounded destroyer, shall we say. As I mentioned, it has deck-mounted guns that are 150 millimeters. They're not even really fully turrets. They're not fully enclosed, and they're not that great either. They have a really long reload time for destroyer guns at tier 10. At tier 9. And, well, the ship's not really well suited to do anything besides be really sneaky and throw torpedoes from fairly close range, because it doesn't have a smoke screen. It's fast when it's got the engine boost up, but it's not really that well suited for close engagements with other destroyers, which is why typically when a Jaeger runs across literally any other tier 10 destroyer or tier 9 destroyer, it gets just walked over because of its lack of gun power and sustainability, because of, well, yeah, it's a Jaeger, right? So, sure, if you're constantly eating torpedoes from it, I see how that's annoying, but once you play the thing, you understand its weak points, and you understand how to deal with it. And that's the topic of discussion in today's video, because I'll see this happen a lot with many a ship that are fairly innocent of being, cracked or broke in the game, because, well, they aren't. And you'll see many a commentator saying, I can't believe, destroyers have been allowed to go this unchecked for years. That's a really common one that I still can't believe players are complaining about to the level that I've been seeing in 2025, because destroyers are, well, they are very important. They do have a lot of power in the hands of the players. They're some of the most influential ships in game, and if you're talking about from that side of things, talking about how, yeah, destroyers are so important, maybe too important, that's an issue. That I kind of agree with. But in terms of, them being this absolutely outright broken class, not really, especially once you play them. Once you play destroyers, it's an eye-opening experience, because you realize, oh, they're not really that crazy powerful. Granted, there are a couple of busted ones here and there, as there are a couple of busted cruisers here and there, as there a couple of busted battleships here and there. But, the class in and of itself, it's not. So, what I'll commonly see is complaints about how, I'm just selling, minding my business, and I eat a wall of torpedoes. I can't believe destroyers are this busted. Well, were you selling in a straight line? Probably, if you had an entire wall of torpedoes. Were you playing with your throttle at all? No. Were you selling by a common torpedo channel? Maybe. Those are things that will get you sunk when you're, facing up against enemy destroyers. And how do you learn those things? Well, you can learn a fair bit by, of course, just, observing what destroyers do in game and, watching some videos or catching some streams. That will, of course, give you a pretty good idea of how to counter them. But the single best thing you can do in order to learn how to counter either a class or a ship that is annoying you is to play that class or that ship. And granted, if it is like a premium ship, find something fairly close to it and grind up to it, or just try out the class. Because sure, like Jaeger. Jaeger is a really popular ship right now, and I understand, if you're not willing to cough up the cash or cough up the coal to get it, why you don't want to play it. But what you can most certainly do is go try out the Pan-European destroyers that have very similar torpedoes to the Jaeger, because, well, they both have Pan-Euro torpedoes, but the Pan-Euro destroyer line, they are much more, kind of a mix of gun and torpedo boats. If you want like a full-on like torpedo boat experience, you can of course just go play the Japanese torpedo boat line, the Shimakaze line, which granted, not really a Jaeger, but you'll still learn the fundamentals of torpedo boats. You'll learn what they look for. You'll learn what ships they target. You'll learn what routes they go and what torpedo channels they look for, because, well, when you get all those things right, you do well in those ships, and you'll learn that by playing those ships, and you'll learn what pisses them off too. Here's a secret that I say many a times: play with your throttle, play with your rudder. That will make so many Shimakaze players mad at tier 10, or so many torpedo boats in general mad when you do that, because that throws off their predictions. And you might be saying, well, duh, Sealord, that everyone knows that. Apparently not, because I see plenty of y'all at higher tier just eating plenty of torpedoes and making the Shimakazes happy. There's a reason it's still so popular at tier 10. But moving out of like the destroyer category, like cruisers too. Playing cruisers will teach you how to counter them, because you'll know where they're going, what they're looking for, and what they're going to try and exploit to have a great game, because you'll do that playing cruisers. You'll figure it out. Trust in yourself. Most of you are smart enough to figure that out. Now, I'm not saying drop what you're doing and go play and go grind out a line that you have never grinded before. The best thing to do is, as you're grinding out your next main grind, just pick something on the side. When you get frustrated or tired of grinding out, let's say you want the bungo, right? And you're tired of grinding to the bungo, you want to break, go pick up a destroyer line, a light cruiser line, a heavy cruiser line, and just grind it on the side. You'll learn to appreciate not only, the tactics used to do well in those ships, because you can use them against those ships. You'll also learn to appreciate, the teamwork, and the teamwork that should be happening, I should say, the teamwork that's needed in order to achieve victory in this game, and it will make you a better player. And you might be thinking, well, destroyers are hard to get a whole lot of damage in. Yeah, that is true, because a lot of times with destroyers, you're fighting other destroyers. There is, of course, those games where you can get through and, get a nice little farm on the enemy team towards, the end of the match. But, like what you're watching the background right here in this gearing game, this is another great example of how, yeah, you may not be doing a lot of damage in destroyers, but, like, they have other purposes, mostly tactical ones, that you're still rewarded for in the game's economy. The gearing game in the back, I do like, maybe 40,000 damage? But guess what I was also doing in my gearing? I was capping, and I was spotting for my team. And guess what? In this absolute blowout match where I barely did any damage, I'm still number 4 on the team, because I did things that helped out quite a lot on my flank. Spotting, I think I had like 150,000 spotting damage, which the game rewards you, in destroyers at least, in the same way as if that was actual damage, because that's how important spotting damage is, and you know, you should be trying to do that in destroyers. You hear that, destroyer players? Yeah, we need spotting. Conversely too, obviously if you're in a cruiser or really any other ship, you should be supporting your destroyers because they are so important doing that. And again, it's so important, that's why they give it the same reward as actual damage. So what I'm saying is, expand your horizons, try out other classes, and it'll cut back on a lot of the frustration in this game. You'll learn how to play those ships, which means you'll learn how to punish those ships. Just think about battleships, right? Many of you are battleship mains. I'm a battleship main, obviously, while you're watching the channel. A lot of you are. I know all the armor layouts for pretty much every single high-tier battleship in the game like the back of my hand. So I know where to aim to Citadel that Yami at this range. I know where to aim to absolutely make that GK player cry at this range. You know, you learn that by playing against those ships, and of course by playing those ships, because when I lose, you know, half of my HP in my Yami because I didn't, you know, angle my cheek hard enough, yeah, I'm like, oh, well, yep, that was a mistake, wasn't it, right? Same thing when you're playing the other ships. You learn your ship's armor layout, so when you are now shooting at that same ship 2 games later, you know where to aim to murder that ship in the best way possible. Same concept with all the other tactics and such, and trying to avoid eating torpedoes, among other things. Now, of course, I just used destroyers as an example because it's one of the most common comments I see on the channel. You can apply this to any aspect of any other class in the game. You'll learn how to deal with it better by playing that class. So that's my 2 cents for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this. Any other suggestions you have for players looking to cut back on frustrating incidents in ships that they haven't played yet. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, wonderful rest of the week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.